Hello, everyone. Today I have the pleasure of having Isa Abdur-Rahman with me. He is a real estate attorney, and what he's going to talk about today is estate planning, which is something that I come across a lot, and I feel that it's very important. Isa, share what you know, what you practice with estate planning.
Sure, Raphael. Thank you, first of all, for having me on. I definitely appreciate it. I've been in practice in real estate and estate planning since 2004. Based here in Queens, representing clients all around the metropolitan area and increasingly some upstate New York as well. And so I've had the opportunity to help clients at various stages of their individual and family lives, both at the point of purchasing a home, selling a home, and also trying to sometimes keep a home or properties that family members have acquired during their lifetime, even at the time that those families pass on. So it's kind of a full life cycle. And one of the things that we do in helping those individuals and families is called estate planning, as Raphael mentioned a moment ago. So estate planning generally means, okay, you've accumulated certain assets during your lifetime, and you want to plan for what happens to those assets or with those assets at the time when you leave the earth. And usually people are concerned, of course, with their children, if they have children, maybe grandchildren, it could be nieces, nephews, certainly spouse, could even be parents. And even it could be concerned with charities for those who want to be able to leave gifts and resources to nonprofit organizations or to churches. So estate planning can cover a very wide net of possible uses. And usually when people think about estate planning, they're concerned with, I would say, three things. One, they want to minimize the cost of the probate or transfer process, after they pass. They don't want their family members to have to go through a lot of long or expensive probate through the courts if they can avoid it. Secondly, they're also concerned with tax considerations, right? How do you transfer or pass on your wealth, your assets to your heirs, your next generation, without much of that wealth being taxed and without your heirs having to incur taxes that they really don't want to have to bear? And then thirdly, which really I usually treat as a first matter, is, well, what is the intention that the individual has for the next generation of their family? Meaning, some families will want to make sure that the next generation retains ownership of real estate as opposed to selling it. Other families may say, hey, look, I've built up these holdings, or I have this property or this account, and I just want that liquidated, meaning sold off for its cash value, so that the next generations can go to college, or if they want to move someplace else and do something, so be it. So really being clear about what the individual's goals and visions are for the next generation of the family is a very, very important part of the estate planning process. And I'm always happy to have those conversations with my clients and even share with them some examples from other families that I've helped, so that they can have an easier time thinking through their own planning process.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to start, like let's say they own a home, obviously they're thinking about this, right? They're getting of age, or they're just maybe not there, or thinking 10 and 15 years from now. They have a few assets, they have children. Like, what's their first step? Like, what should they do first? Because they know all these things could happen, but they don't know what to do. What is the first step?
Excellent question. So the first step I would say generally is to have a consultation,
Okay.
whether that's with me, financial planner, but to have a consultation. And the reason I say that is because, just as you kind of indicated, a lot of times we think things in our minds, we may know it in our heart, in our spirit, but until we're verbalizing those things to someone else, it doesn't really become clear and it can't be crystallized. And that's one of the most important parts of estate planning, is verbalizing, because there is no estate plan if it's not put into words and those words put into writing. So first step would be to arrange a consultation, with your legal or your financial advisor so that you can talk some of those things out. Second step is to begin prioritizing what some of those goals are. Like I said, are the primary goals related to the specific objectives that you have for your family, the next generation, the tax matters, and then certainly whether or not you want to, or how you want to situate your plan. So situate meaning, and going back to answer your question somewhat differently, there's a will, right? Some people will say, is my first step doing a will? It could be. It could be. It depends on your objectives. Then there's a trust. Many of us have heard of trust, and there's different types of trust. There are revocable trust, and then there are irrevocable trust. And the two of those may depend upon certain objectives also, such as who are the beneficiaries, whether or not you as an individual want to prepare to be eligible for Medicaid down the line, if that's what you're planning for. So those kinds of questions might determine whether the first step is to do a trust. And one of the last thing that I'll mention here is that I always encourage families to just make sure that you and your elders have a power of attorney in place. That's one of the simplest things to put in place. It's not so much an estate planning tool as much as it is a long-term care planning or longevity planning tool, but it is one of the first things that I encourage, the individuals and elders that I represent to have put in place.
So, I mean, so what you're saying is basically that elder care and estate planning kind of work seamlessly together, because it's not only thinking about, okay, what's going to happen to me, or let's plan for something after I leave this planet, but also when I get to a certain age where I'm going to need, I'm going to have medical needs and I can't take care of myself as I usually do. How can I position myself so that I create a better situation for my family? Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I mean, and the way you said it is, I think perfect. I personally, I don't even use the term elder planning as much. I do, because that's how people understand it. But I like to use the term longevity planning.
Okay.
Right? And partly because, more and more of us and our elders are living longer. They're living longer. Life expectancy is increasing. So to have someone live into their 70s nowadays, that's kind of considered okay, great. Into their 80s, wow. Into their 90s, whoa. But that's what we're preparing for, not just length of days, but the quality of life that our elders and our families can experience as our elders are blessed with longevity. Right. So we plan for that longevity so that the elders and the family members can together live vibrantly. And if you think about it, someone lives into their 80s, their adult children are probably going to be in their 60s, or somewhere thereabouts. So, they too are going to be thinking about their longevity, even while they're still looking after their living parents, and not just folks in their 60s, even folks in their 40s, in their 50s. So we're all in those boats together. So yes, longevity planning and estate planning, they do go hand in hand for those reasons.
Okay, very good. So it's just a matter of, I believe people, because it's somewhat uncomfortable sometimes for people to actually speak about this and actually just confront this, like with their family, that this could be a reality. But I think that once people get out of their comfort zone and just, push forward and at least are able to speak to some professionals, at the other end, I'm sure you've seen that people find relief in knowing that, all right, things are checked off in case something were to happen. Longevity, there's something there in place, right? Would you agree that most people feel comfortable or more like just at peace when they at least have thought about that and formulated a plan for that?
Another good question. I probably will answer that to say maybe half and half.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that depends on the personality, of the individual elder in particular.
Right.
It depends on the dynamics of the family. So some people will feel a sense of relief having put their paperwork in order. Some people will. Other people will be glad that it's done, but will still feel a little sense of uneasiness about what the future holds. But what I think is beneficial to both personality types is the process, right? The process of thinking through these things and talking through these things, even though it might not, for everyone, it might not yield an immediate sense of peace of mind. It's there. The
Yeah.
seed of that peace is there because you've gone through the process of talking it out, talking through it with your loved ones. And the family as a whole, especially if you do have the opportunity to involve other family members in some of that planning process, that process helps to take strain off of the family. The flip side, or the inverse of that, I should say, and I see that also, is that when families are left to figure things out when an elder passes on who has not put anything in place, that tends to create a strain on the remaining family members that I'm sure the elders, if they had a choice, they probably wouldn't have wanted that strain. Some elders, they say, hey, look, I'm gone. So, that's up to them. And I get it. If you live to that point, then God bless you. You can leave it to, for the rest of the folks to deal with. But one of the things that guides me in this process, I spend a lot of time studying wealth management and generational wealth transfer in order to help my clients as well as to edify myself. But you see, as you study these things, that even some of the wealthiest families that have ever, lived on earth, some of them do this well. And so their wealth is able to be preserved, for 3, 4, 5, 6 generations down the line. Whereas some of the wealthiest families, the wealth hardly made it to the 3rd generation. By the time the 3rd generation got their hands on it, it vanished. And the
Okay.
difference that gets pointed out is not the amount of money, it's just about the level of communication that happens between the generations. That's really the difference.
Okay. Very good, Isa. Thank you. I mean, this is a wealth of information. This is a lot of good stuff. Thank you so much for providing this information. If you want to reach out to Isa for a consultation, his information will be in the comments below. All right, Isa, take care of yourself, man.
Thanks a lot, Raphael.